Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the country's biggest virtual conclave, Rendezvous 2020. We all are going through this unprecedented situation of a global pandemic, but someone said, the show must go on. It's the second day into our series, and today we have the presence of a true leader, someone with a high academic excellence, someone who is a driving force toward the developing and a prosperous economy. We have among us Samanu Bhatia, inspiring millions of people by the fact that if you have the will and perseverance of achieving your goals, there is nothing stopping you. Samanu Bhatia is an eminent personality in the marketing and finance domain at PepsiCo. He is the former Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, Asia Pacific region at PepsiCo. He received his undergraduate degree from St. Xavier's College in West Bengal. Welcome, sir. We all are really excited to hear from you about your journey and experience. We would now like our principal, sir, Dr. S.P. Agarwal, to speak a few words about the virtual conclave. Over to you, sir.
He's joining. He's getting some trouble in joining. So in just 1 minute, he's joining.
Okay, no issues.
Manu sir, we are live on YouTube.
Excellent. There's no pressure on me, I know.
Right, sir, right.
This is what I call the auto rickshaw mentality that we all have. If the front goes in, the back will come in. It starts with a small conversation. There's a small talk we want you to give. Then it becomes a virtual symposium. Then it becomes on YouTube Live. Then it comes. Ask all the questions first before you commit.
Right, sir, right.
Sir has joined, so he'll be.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
We are ready to start?
Yes, sir, we have already started, sir.
Okay. Let's continue. No problem.
Shubhi, you can again go with the line.
So we are over to you. You need to say a few words about the conclave.
Okay. Thank you. Our speaker today, Mr. Manu Bhatia, who is with PepsiCo. First of all, welcome and thank you very much for accepting the invitation of our students for giving your views on harnessing the potentials of corporate world. Well, this is a series of talk organized by the college, basically the efforts of our students. Yesterday, we had one talk with Dr. Ravi Bhatia, Dr. Ravi Mishra, who was executive director in RBI, a very fruitful discussion. And this series will continue. Today, it is with you. Sir, let me tell you that the college is a Delhi University maintained institution and we have about 3,000 students, and our focus is mainly in mathematics, statistics, computer science, and related subjects like economics, commerce, management, and philosophy, psychology. So these are the areas in which we offer honors courses, and we have about 100 faculty members. So the basic purpose of these talks is to expose our students to the corporate world, working of the corporates. That is also very important. See, our feeling is that, of course, classroom teaching, we as an academician can do it. But today, the youth should be exposed to the actual working, or we can say with the industry experts, professionals who are expert in their areas, and share some of their experiences, knowledge with them, so that they find it easier in their life. And our focus not only is on teaching and learning, but also teaching them the few skills which we can call them life skills, or actual working skills. So that's why these kind of programs are organized very frequently. And
I think we have a technical glitch.
Yes, Shobhi, I think you can take over from here. I think he'll join again.
Okay, so now we would like Samanu Bhatia to take over and enlighten us with his words. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Shubhi, and good evening, everyone. Guys, I mean, you've got my name, and honestly, it's an honor, a privilege to come and speak to you guys. Want to share my experiences. No major gyan, nothing. I'll just give you my learnings. I'll give you what I've picked up. I'll try and phrase it, take it through kind of 3 phases, and talk about like the first 10 years, the second 10 years, and the third 10 years. I've been working 33 years now, just for you guys to know. So. And then through the conversation, maybe suss out just through those various phases, what have been my key learnings, and share a bit of perspective with you, okay? But first, let me thank you guys. I mean, really, Kripal, who kind of reached out to me a couple of weeks ago to come and talk about this. And it was an interesting conversation. We started talking, and he's a phenomenal orator. And I think over a period of 1 hour, we kind of landed up for a 10-minute conversation, became a 1 hour conversation where I think he was interviewing me whether I was fit for the job or not. But honestly, it was an opportunity I would not have let go anyway. So it's really something which I feel very strongly about, of really talking to the youths, talking to the youngsters, talking to young managers, because that for me is part of my job also of giving back in a way, right? And then each one of you is the future. Each one of you is going to be having a blazing career going forward as entrepreneurs in the private sector, in the public sector, and some of you in pure public life. But so the future, this is addressing the future of the country and the world in a way. So I'm really, really honored, really privileged to be here. So what I'll try and do is talk for about 30, 35 minutes, and then really open it up for questions. And I think the more I answer the questions you have, the better it's going to be. And that makes it even more interactive and even more engaging for all of us. And if I don't have an answer, and if I have to find out something, I will definitely try and get back to you on email separately. Okay, so rest assured, I'll try and get a response back to you if I can't give it to you right off the bat right now. So let's go right to the very beginning. So we'll wing back to the 1980s, is when I was a school kid growing up in Calcutta. I did most of my major schooling in Calcutta, and then did so literally class 6 onwards. And then as I got into high school, you kind of choose science or commerce at our time. You do science or commerce. If you're a good kid who's academically accomplished, you're either become an engineer or a doctor. If you're going to join your dad's business, or you're not so accomplished academically, you go and join commerce. And then the rest of it go to arts, right? I mean, so no judgment here, but that was the way it was 30, 35, 40 years back. So I decided I was academically accomplished. So I went and did my science in my class 11 and 12, gave all the competitive exams, and honestly got through none of them. So should be the first thing of being a brilliant academician? No, I was not. I think it was the first lesson I learned in life, because didn't get through the exams, was sitting back and wondering what next to do. I only knew one thing. I was not going to waste one more year trying to give it one more shot a year later. So take a gap year and sit and study and do that. A lot of my friends and colleagues were doing that. I was very clear I wasn't going to do that. So you start looking at plan B very early in life. And your biggest consultant and advisor at that time typically is your dad, because internet was not a big thing for us at that time. So clearly sat down, talked to my dad. My dad came back and said, I've got these, and his data point was the couple of young CAs in the office that he said, they look very, very accomplished. They're really out there. I think you should do your CA. So fair enough. Very well. I sounded excited, sounded interesting in a way. Did some research on my own, checked with a few people. But then when I did started switching, pivoting from science straight into commerce. So at that time, you could do your CA along with your college. My grades allowed me to get into St. Xavier's College, gave an entrance exam for the chartered accountancy course, got through, and then started a regimen over 3 years of morning college in Xavier's, Calcutta, which used to start at 6 a.m. in the morning. So you do your college in the morning, you go do your articleship from 9 to 5, and then from 5:30, 6 onwards, at least 4 days a week, you kind of go into self-study mode because the CA course doesn't have classes. It didn't have classes. So you basically self-study and then manage your way through that. So that was an interesting 3 years, three and a half years of kind of a study come work because you are working. But once we got through that, you got through your CA, which was people say is a very big achievement. So we got through a chartered accountancy and started looking around for jobs. And realized very early that when you go into the big companies, they look for the big four only. They look at people who've done their articleship from the big four, the Lovelock Lewis or the Price Waters, the Deloittes. And I had gone to a much smaller firm thinking it'll give me time to study. So again, the research was not proper. So again, you've got to be very careful as you get into these big life decisions, how you kind of pick it up and actually study it and make your decisions based on a lot of knowledge and information and not just trust one person's data point or one person's personal advice, even if that person is your father. Honestly, that was where it was for me. Through the process of starting my job, I took a job just to make sure I was financially independent. I took up a job in a small organization, but then was still looking out for that big break. And then I got an interview call with ICI. And ICI at that time was one of the top British multinationals in the country. People used to join ICI, Levers, Nestle, or Cadbury's, the four companies, and P&G. Those are the companies people would kind of talk about. And an interesting, we're sitting, 10 of us sitting in a group discussion, and they said there are 2 jobs, we're going to pick up 2 from the 10 of you. And we all were introducing ourselves. So we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Everybody seemed all okay. The 10th guy comes and says, I'm a chartered accountant, I'm a cost accountant, I'm from Ahmedabad. I've co-authored 2 books. I've taught in St. Xavier's College. I've done a startup company. So we all realized 9 of us were fighting for one job because that one job was already gone to the 10th guy, which is actually what happened. So, so you get through competition, but I got that opportunity. And honestly, you joined a company where you belonged. You joined an organization which nurtured young talent, which really felt it was there to develop and grow you. And it gave you phenomenal career opportunities because it was located across the country. It was multi-industry, so it was a pioneer in fertilizers, in pharmaceuticals, in agrochemicals, in paints, and it just gave you the opportunity to do many, many things. So over a 10-year period with that company, I went from a corporate job in Calcutta, I went to the factory in Chennai, learned really the nuts and bolts of a business, grew from there to become a business accountant, which is where you partner with the business a lot more and you take decisions along with the business, and then come back again to bigger roles in larger plants and multiple roles. So if you look at it, you got many critical experiences early in your career. And that's one thing you have to do. You have to, as the more critical experiences you garner in the early part of the career, it's better for you because you pick up so many diverse skills and you don't know how they stack up for you, and they come back and lay the foundation for you in the future to become a really phenomenal, to have a really phenomenal career. So having do all this, you also learn new things. As a young manager, you go into a plant, into a factory, and you're heading the accounts department. And the accounts department is full of tenured people, the union, the non-management staff, as we would call them, who are like 15, 20, 35 years in their work, who've done the same thing in the same way for 20 years or 30 years. And there you come as this young upstart who comes and says, no, I think you should do it this way. And 9 times out of 10, they actually throw you out. They just don't say, you're going to be here for 2 years. You're going to go away to a bigger job somewhere. We'll be still here. But this is the way we've always done it. This is the way we'll continue to do it. Now you come very quickly and you learn that you've got to still be firm because you are the boss. You still have to get your work done. You have to be firm with them. You've got to get your work done out of them. But then you've got to be fair. So you cannot be just kind of say, I'm ordering you to do that stuff. That doesn't work. You've got to be a boss, but you've still got to be a friend and a confidant. So you've got to kind of play those two roles because they also have their issues and they should have someone they can come and talk to. And third and biggest of them, you have to learn to manage people with multiple backgrounds, multiple skills, and get them all to pull in one direction, because that's the only way you're going to achieve your goal. And in every small way, every role you're doing, there's always an objective which meets a larger objective. So if you are all not pulling in the same direction, you're going to create chaos. So you learn those critical skills very early in your life, in your job career like that. Second, another interesting phase of my early career was the time we used to do most of the accounting on handwritten ledgers. So, we used to consolidate our books. There used to be this one guy we used to call a Babu who used to be sitting, and he had all the divisions putting the data, and he would write it down very meticulously. And it was tedious work, let me say that. But until he signed off on that document, you never knew what was happening. So he was the true power center of the company. Because even the CEO of the company would have to ask him and tell him, Lakshman, number batao kya hai? And Lakshman would say, I'm not ready right now, come to me tomorrow morning. So he would shoo you out. It doesn't matter how senior you were, because he had the power. And then computers happened. And believe you me, the shift of power from that one individual to the computer was so radical. I mean, and it was not easy. It took about 6 to 8 months for us to get the team, the people, again, it was the non-management staff who were unionized, who could probably stop work immediately, to give up that work because they could not come in the way of progress. Now, so you learn, again, very early, you've got to stay relevant. You've got to be learning. You've got to always be on top of your game. You cannot say that what I've learned is now going to carry me through for the next 30 years of my career. So again, constantly learning is the mantra today. It's not today, it's always been there. And we saw change in our time. You are going to see more change in your time, okay? So I talked about getting critical experiences. I was very keen to get an experience in general management. So I put up my hand for a role which came up in business development. So ICI used to manufacture in some parts of the world the polyethylene films, so polyester film, which goes in all your packaging. And I said, I want to do something different. So I got into that role. It was two of us, a subject matter expert who was from R&D and myself. We were tasked with the job of building the polyester films business in India. So we kicked off very quickly. And big global companies, the perks are they send you abroad for some training. So we were sent to the UK for 3 months. Within the next 2-3 months, we said, okay, go spend 3 weeks in London, go to the plant, go and see how the operations are run there. And then you guys can come back. So we all super excited, young guys, 26, 27 years old, 28 years old. I mean, we all really kicked about it. So we all hop out of a plane, get across to London, get ready. Next day, first day in the morning, we got a 7:30 visit to the plant. I wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning and I switch on the TV and I hear that ICI has sold its polyester business to DuPont. So it's like a shock again. So my first experience of being literally told about a reorg happening in the company without really being aware of it. And then we got, obviously, my manager who was in India called me and said, look, we've got 6 months to handhold the business, and obviously we'll find something for you, but don't worry right now. But go through your training, nothing changes, keep doing what you're doing, which was great. So it was something I was anyways very happy to do and very keen to do. So did the training, came back to India, and then we still had to run the business as before, because you want to make sure you're handing over a running business and that you had not kind of given up on the effort on developing the business. So we used to talk to large companies and packaging converters to try and get a 3-way match and set up a contract between the 3 of us. So I was talking to the Pepsi guys, the Pepsi Foods guys. I was talking to the CFO and the general manager for a period of 2-3 months, along with a couple of packaging converters. And we were trying to sell them a contract, trying to sell the film to them to set up a contract. And over that period, I suddenly get a call from the CFOs one evening saying, would you want to come and join this foods business as the CFO? He was moving on to a role in Australia, and he was tasked with finding somebody who would backfill him. And through my meetings with him, and we were doing so many meetings, I was at one point saying, if you're either going forward, let's go on. If you're not interested, let's cut it. But I didn't realize that I was also being interviewed by the GM in a non-informal environment for him to try to assess whether he would be comfortable working with me. And that's when he gave the green light. The CFO called me, said, "Do you want to come in and do the job? Because we're looking for a person who's not only a pure finance-oriented individual, but has a commercial bent of mind, because the job is going to involve handling the procurement part of the business also." So you just don't know what opportunities are coming your way. So again, that was it was, for me, I was sitting on the edge, not knowing whether I would have another job in ICI. I was trying to do the best I could in selling in a business. And again, just with that, through that experience, getting another role without formally going and applying was again it's a great opportunity and it's a great it's an experience where you realize you've always got to be putting out your best, no matter where. Sometimes those 30-second interactions or those 2-minute interactions leaves a mark with someone, and that's what gets you the next role or the next opportunity in an organization. So again, you're always out there, you're always being looked, people are always looking at you, people are always assessing you and are forming an opinion about you. And you've got to be always there giving out your best is probably one of the things I picked up from there. So in April 1998, we got into Pepsi. Now, when I left ICI was at that time a 700 crore company. So big, large organization in India. This is 1998. And I come to Pepsi Foods, which is like a 50 crore organization. It's like a startup, honestly. It was just a startup. And the goal for the business was, it came in because you had to be into something which was agrarian, so that the beverages business could re-enter. For you guys would not know, but during the time of the emergencies in 1977, Pepsi and Coca-Cola both left the country. And they only came back in 1989. And when they came back in 1989, 1990, just before liberalization happened, the only condition was they had to be into something which was agro-based. So Pepsi brought in the chips facility, which obviously is closely linked with potatoes. So that was the way the beverage business came in. So you were just a crutch on which the core business was coming in. And we were told, you can either survive, because we are not going to put any more money in the India snacks business. But if you don't survive, we'll shut it down, because the rules have changed and beverages can survive without you guys now. So that was the way we all got into that role. So you were always, again, living hand to mouth, but trying to make the business grow. And it was a small group of us who had all come from various companies. We had people from Levers, we had people from P&G, Cadbury's. And I'm telling you, those 8 years, we grew that company from 12 times. So we grew it from being about a 40, 50 crore company to being a 600, 800 crore company in those 8 years. And it was probably the best part of my entire 33 years that I've spent so far, because you had the satisfaction of taking a small fledgling of a company and growing it to becoming something which really mattered to the world, from a PepsiCo perspective. We set up 3 plants or 3 new facilities in those 8 years. We bought over a competitor, and we were like a family where each one had the others back. Because the goal of this core group of the leaders, about 6 or 7 of us, was that our reputation is at stake. If Pepsi Snacks doesn't succeed, it means we have not succeeded. So it was 10, 12-hour days. It was 7 days a week. There was no stopping, and we were doing everything. So my first experience of becoming the CFO literally was going to Azadpur Mandi, because I wanted to understand how potatoes look like, what different varieties of potatoes are there, how spices are bought, what are the different varieties of spices out there. If you didn't learn it, there was nobody who's going to teach you that, number one. And if you didn't know it, you're not going to be able to help and value add to the business, because that was your goal. So again, you have to become an expert in your field. You have to be excellent in the way you work, and especially when you're very small teams. As you become larger in teams, then you have experts under you, because you cannot know everything. But in the initial phases, we were literally doing everything which was possible, and we had each other's back. So it was a group of people which knew that there was nobody out there who's going to sit and do the corporate politics, push the other person down to push themselves up. And everyone was out there with that just one common objective: make the India foods business succeed. And the group of us who spent those 8 years together, we are all over the world right now. We're in multiple companies, but we still catch up. We still meet. So the bond was so strong. It was like family. It was even stronger than family at times. So again, a phenomenal exposure. But again, through those 8 years, what used to happen was, as the company was growing exponentially, you were constantly being evaluated whether you were capable of taking the company to the next level. So yes, you're doing the current job at 50 crores, you're a great CFO. When it becomes 100 crores, do I trust you with the same job or not? So we were being assessed every couple of years on whether we were capable of taking it to the next, doing the job at the next level and taking the company to the next level after that. So again, for me, the big thing was, it's not only about how good you're doing your current job, that's great, but your potential is also always being appraised. And that's what you have to also demonstrate from time to time when you're looking for career growth in our organization. So 8 years out there, and then it was time for a change. The couple of interactions I had with the global, what we used to call PepsiCo International, which was everything but the US, the CFO who used to be my boss used to kind of come over to India a couple of times, and over those formed a good bond. He trusted what I was doing. He was comfortable with what I was doing. And an opportunity came along in the US in the corporate planning department at the PepsiCo global level. And he said, I think you would do well with this critical experience. And you can imagine, if I were to put it, it's like driving a 100cc bike and being an expert in that to suddenly being told, now I want you to race the Formula One car. The level was different. That was the difference. I mean, we were a kind of a $150, $200 million business in India, and we were running it a small, from a PepsiCo operation size, it was nothing, because PepsiCo at that time was a $65 billion business. So you suddenly realize you're being pushed from this big fish in a really tiny pond to being absolutely the smallest fish possible in this absolute ocean. So you land up there, but it's an opportunity you cannot say no to, because A, it's the US, B, it gives you your shot of now moving into the global career, which again was always is a dream for many people, many of us as well. And you get in there and you realize you've got to learn new things, you've got to unlearn old things, and then you've got to keep on becoming, and you've got to fit into the new environment big time. My first exposure was with Indra Nui. Everybody's heard her name. She was the CFO at that time. And we used to be writing that there was a quarterly letter we used to write on the performance, which used to go up to the board of directors, which was going from her desk. It was under her name. So I remember writing the letter, doing the whole draft. I took the previous 6 versions and I just, you not a copy and paste, but you use the language, you try and make sure you get the content right from that perspective. I sent the first draft up, I put a lot of effort in it, put the draft up, and she catches, her first question, who's written this memo? So you're sitting in front of her, you can't say it's not me, so you say it's me. And she says, you've got to forget your Indian English and you've got to rewrite this memo. She's very critical. I mean, she's the nicest person in the world, but she was razor sharp. If it's not good, it's not good. Doesn't matter who you are. So you can't use words like fortnightly in US, you use bi-weekly. You can't use words like, which is not a comfortable word in the US, you use more that. And you suddenly realize that there's a shift, and you have to, if you want to be looked at as being a person who has the potential, you have to quickly unlearn some of the stuff you've got and go into and learn new things. You learn the new culture, and the cultural is not only in the professional front, even at a personal level, you've got to just learn it's different. Again, as we sit there, you were living in a service apartment for the first 3 months, and every Monday you would come down the elevator and somebody would ask you, how was your weekend? A ranked stranger in the elevator. He doesn't want to hear you talk about the whole weekend. You just say, fine, that's about it. The moment you start saying, I did this, I did that, or it was really bad, that person has shut you off. He doesn't want to hear the rest of the answer. So you realize that there's some just things were just done for the sake of doing. It's not really meant to go fall into that and just go start talking having a big discussion. So you learn the cultural nuances of a new country and a new professional environment. And it's a university that I call it the University of PepsiCo, because There's what I learned professionally, what I learned on a personal level outside the office, what the whole family learns outside the office. It's an opportunity which it gives everyone. And honestly, not something I would have ever looked back on. It was probably one of my toughest experiences in those 4 years I spent in the US, the first 3 years of being head of corporate planning, because I was at the lowest end of that in that function. I suddenly became a person who was always used to giving instructions to teams when I was in India, and everything would be listened to. And it was like saying, if you tell a person jump, they just ask you how high. They don't ask you, why should I jump? To suddenly the same instructions coming to me, I would be told to do the activity. I was the lowest. So every activity stopped at me. So I was doing all the stuff. So it's a change. You've got to change your mindset that you can move in your career from being absolutely the top of your function, the top of your department, being a boss, completely unquestionable, and then go to another role where you're at the lower end of the totem pole and you receive all the instructions. But therein lies your flexibility. You got to flex your style. You got to move because you're getting learnings, and those learnings are what matter more importantly. If you've drawn out a career path for yourself, there are some steps that you take which will give you a completely different experience. So we used to be sitting in discussions where the corporate CEO, the CFO, the head of tax, the head of treasury, we were all in those discussions. The way they would interact, the way they would look at problems, the way they would look at performance was something that you carry with you for a lifetime after that. So that was, you just pick up very different skill sets, and you pick up a lot of skill sets of your networking. When you move from a formal operating role where you have formal authority to a staff role in a function in a corporate, you have no formal authority over people, but you need information from every market in the world, and it's always required yesterday. There is nothing in the corporate world that gives you, okay, you've got 2 weeks to get us this information. Everything is urgent. And that's when you realize that informal network you build, the informal connections you build with your colleagues and peers across various parts of the world is what matters the most, because they know when you need the information and you truly need it, they will help. And when they want something from you, it's two-way. You will also help them. So when you build those bridges and you build those connections really matter. We all know connections matter in the corporate world. The formal and the informal network is extremely important. So again, don't take it lightly. Don't ignore it. The formal authority is only a small part of what you do in a job as you go forward. You will find that your informal network is what actually gets you better results more often than not. So did that role for 3 years and definitely was not at my happiest. Okay, but again, you've got to look at life as a total. It's got multiple facets to it. Okay, so there is the professional career, there is the personal career, personal growth of your personal objectives. There's the family. Now, you don't want to shift everyone up. I don't like what I'm doing, so in 1 year's time, let's get out of here and let's go back to India. And you want to give the opportunity also. You want to learn from there. So it's important to focus on the learning and focus on what new things you're learning rather than talk about what you're missing all the time. So it's a glass half full, glass half empty way of looking at life. And I think you always look at the glass half full as being the opportunity that you have. And the empty part is what you fill up as you go along in life, okay? So did a corporate role 3 years, you kind of burnt out after that because it is high stress, it is high pressure, and you really, you are pushed to the brink most days, most often than not. So again, I was very clear in my head, I wanted to go back to being in an operating role, being closer to the business. That was where I used to be very clear. That was what gave me happiness. That was what gave me a real high level of joy. So again, you need to be clear about where you want to go in your career. There's multiple options you'll have, but you need to be clear. These are the 2 or 3 things I'll do. And it's no harm having those career discussions with your manager or your manager's manager, which just to make sure that people know what you are looking for. Most times, and I can tell you, most of us hesitate to have those candid conversations with a senior person. We are very hierarchy driven. We always say, look, if I'm doing a good job, good things will happen. But there's also a saying, control your destiny or someone else will. So you want to make sure you're controlling your own destiny. So be clear about what you want to do. Have those clear conversations with the people who matter. And then that's it. After that, you've said your piece. If it doesn't work out, you can take a decision, what works best for you. Remember, it's a two-way transaction. It's not that you need the company more than any less than the company needs you. So never underestimate your importance to the organization, and don't let yourself be taken for granted. And do this as early as you can in your careers. Don't wait. I mean, I waited. I was really passive in the first multiple years of my career, and then I realized once you start being aggressive, nobody minds. I think they value it. At least you're clear in your head as to what you want to do when you're not waiting for somebody to decide for you what they think you want to do. So you get the point. So you should be clear, and you always have the right to change your mind. A boss of mine, very early in my life, said we always reserve the right to get smarter. Yeah, we'll make mistakes. We'll make mistakes at work. We'll make mistakes on what career choices we make sometimes, but then we can always correct ourselves. Course correction is not a bad thing, but not doing anything is worse, right? So as I said, I was very keen to get back to a core business. So I got an opportunity to come to Hong Kong and again, it was a lateral move, but it was a lateral move. It wasn't a promotion, but it was coming back to a business, coming back to the Asia Pacific region, a region which I was very, very comfortable with. And even though it was a lateral, I said, I'll take it. Again, for me, there was the learning, which was very critical. And it got me back on the path where I think I could again course correct and get myself to where I think I belonged in terms of where my career should be. So I did the planning role in Asia Pac for 3 years. And again, getting close to the business, even though I was at a region role, but still you were much closer to the business than being in New York, was again an absolute joy. You worked with markets, but you worked with markets of very different backgrounds, with markets in Australia, Japan, Vietnam, Thailand. Every country is different. Every market was different. Every individual in each country was very different in the way they worked. The Aussies would be blunt. They'd tell you straight on the face what they thought about what you were asking. And they were very clear that their work is 9 to 5. At 5 o'clock in the evening, they're going to pack their bags and they're going to go on a surfboard and go surfing. You can't get them to sit and work till 8 o'clock like you do in India or you do in most of the markets. You go to Thailand, the Thais, if you are very aggressive with them, they'll just shut up. They'll just close down. You won't know what they're thinking. So how do you get your work done? So you need to understand the cultural nuances of each market. You need to understand how people react, and you got to flex your style. Don't expect everybody to flex their style for you. Again, that's where you have to learn to also flex your style to deal with different kinds of people. So did the job for 3 years, and then sometimes being right place, right time helps. The CFO role opened up. I was in a way, I had spent 9 years at the same level but had done 4 or 5 different roles. And did I go through my phases of dejection and demotivation? Absolutely. Not once, many, many times. But again, in that, you got to, again, look at the glass half full kind of concept. Was I learning? Yes. Was I happy because the family was happy? Absolutely, yes. So was I getting the professional recognition? Was I respected in the organization? Yes. If I was not the only thing I wasn't getting is the career growth. So again, I was ticking 3 or 4 out of the 5 boxes that I would look at the way I was making career decisions. And you've got to decide basis that I'm still going to continue doing what I'm doing. So the CFO role opened up, and the CFO role opened up, and I had listed this out as being my dream job in 2005 at a program. We were attending a management development program, and they'd all asked us to list our dream job, and this was the job I'd listed. So 8 years later, I get that role. And 4 years of being the CFO for Asia Pac was, again, one of the absolute highlights of my career in terms of doing what I felt. You're a leader, you're driving an agenda of a multi-billion-dollar region, and you're working across foods, beverages, you're working across joint ventures, you're working across absolutely vanilla white space markets like Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Cambodia. And you just learn so much. it's one of those places where every day you wake up and you come with 120% charged up for it to do the job. It's you. Once you're doing that, you know you're in the right place. Once you're charged up about going to work every day, and you know that whatever you do, there's going to be something of value that you learn or something of value that you're going to give to the organization. It's you're hitting the sweet spot. But being a CFO, you also realize the buck stops with you. You are now suddenly in charge of everything. You are making the decisions, and people will respond to the decisions. What you say, what I could joke with my peers 2 months earlier, once I became the CFO and I was their manager, I could not do the same jokes with my peers, the same people. So you realize relationship changes. Now you got to manage through that. So it's, again, you'll realize as you go through your careers, there's always going to be a stage in life where 5 of you very close friends were working together. One person gets the promotion, the other 4 will not. And you're going to have to manage through, either you're the person who gets the promotion, so you manage the relationship with the other 4, or you're the one who doesn't get it and you have to manage the relationship with that one person. The only thing I can tell you is, guys, over a period of 30 years, it all balances out. So if you think it's bad right now, just hang in there. You will get your due no matter what. As long as you're giving it your 100%, as long as you're showing that you are always there to learn and develop yourself, the opportunities will come. Whether it's in the same organization or elsewhere, you will always get the opportunity. So the CFO role, again, you, apart from obviously being the financial steward for the region, you're supposed to be a business partner to the GM, you're like your strategic partner for the GM. And then I think the biggest role that you have as you get more senior in the organizations is developing talent. Most of us stop short. We fall short on that. We are so busy with our day-to-day jobs, we forget to make that investment for the future. And there are 2 reasons for it. One is obviously it's your job. Your job is to develop talent below you, develop the talent so they are ready to do the jobs that you are doing right now. And number 2 is if you don't develop talent and you remain indispensable, you're never going to move from that role, and you're never going to have time to develop yourself to do the next bigger role. So always followed a principle of making myself dispensable in my job, and in a good way, which means you develop your people, your team, that they can do the job as well as you. And 2 is you keep on putting your hand up for more critical experiences so that you show the team or the leaders that you are ready for the next role. Like I told you, people are expecting you to do your current job. You're going to hit the ball out of the park every day. That's the expectation. You're going to deliver excellence on what you're doing. But for you to get the next job, you need to show the potential of doing the job. And I forgot to mention, when I was sitting as the planner in Asia Pac, and I was saying, one of the GMs, the guy in Australia, he was visiting and he had become a good friend of mine. So he said, Manu, what's your next job you want to do? I said, I'm looking at the room next door. That's the job I've been wanting to do, and that's my dream job. And that guy's name was John. So he says, from tomorrow, I want you to walk like John, talk like John, and act like John. And he said it in a way which literally meant, let people feel that if the CFO is not there and they talk to you, they don't need to go back to the CFO for a reference again. And they have the confidence that you give people that you're ready to the job, you've got everything that it takes to do the job, is critical. And it's not one person who's always looking at you. There are multiple people who are looking at you when you get into senior jobs. So the CFO may be one person who's obviously your immediate manager is your biggest sponsor, but then cross-functionally, other people also have a say in the matter when you come into more senior level jobs. So again, make sure you don't hang all your eggs in one basket. You are talking to multiple people. Multiple people know what you're doing, and they're aware of your achievements. So it's, again, a lesson for all of us. Don't say my manager will do it for me because I trust my manager. No harm in trusting, but make sure you also spread your risks. You hedge your bets. So you always should hedge your bets, and you should have other people who should know you, because the head of HR doesn't know you. The head of HR is going to say, but I know the other person better. That person I've interacted, great leadership skills, great talent. I've interacted with that person. I'm not interacted with Manu at all. And you lose the opportunity, because in large organizations, believe you me, everyone is excellent. Everyone is above average. It's those small things that make a difference, that set you apart from the next bunch of the rest of the people who are competing for the same role. And that's what you've got to be doing. You've got to be conscious what's going to make the difference. And one of the things I believe very clearly is people should know what you're doing. Don't be shy about talking about your achievements. I'm not saying go boast and shout out from the rooftops, but people should know what you're doing. People should be aware that, hey, Shruti's done this work, it's fantastic. And she presented it to the leadership team, and that, I mean, she was supremely confident. I think she can do the job that Manu is doing right now. So when he moves, we'll get her into that role. Let's have her at the backfield. Those interactions make a difference. So you never know, like I said, you're always being looked at, you're always being assessed, and people are always watching for the potential that you show. And like we all give admission exams, we find more reasons to decline versus accept, because there are so many people applying for the role or applying for admission in a college or a school. So make sure you're always putting your best foot forward. Even when you're feeling down, when there are bad times happening, you have to be positive. You have to stay positive. The negative shadow that you cast goes far beyond what you think. You come with a long face, you come with a negative attitude, you go and bitch and moan about what's happening in the corporation. Believe you me, people listen to that. People hear it. It goes from one person to the next very, very, very quickly. There is nothing confidential in big organizations, right? Much as we think there is. And the word goes around. And before you know it, somebody's formed an opinion about you without even meeting you, without even interacting with you. And so when they go and they're going to pitch 5 people together for the next job, they're going to say, I don't like that person. I hear that person is really critical about the leadership, is really not happy in her job or his job, and is looking to leave because you may have made some loose comments somewhere. So again, that's what was that whole CFO experience in Hong Kong. But I still had the curiosity bug. I wanted to learn more. I was still ambitious. I still wanted to grow a little more in the organization. I could have very well sat there and said, I can spend the next 10 years in this job, because it was still very exciting. But there was that, I think once you become an expat, you become like a gypsy. You want to get new experiences. It's like a drug. You need that drug. So for me, a new experience was again the way I wanted to go forward. So there was a role in Dubai, a bigger role for the Middle East, North Africa region, CFO. Again, not that I was actively canvassing for the job, but when it opened up, I did say, it would be good if I could do that job. It got me the next level. And I thought it kind of equalized the delay that I had much earlier in my career, where I lost out, I thought, because I was too long at the same level. So in my way, this was my catch up. So got that job, came into Dubai, phenomenal experience, multiple, very different markets. You talk about Egypt or Jordan or Beirut, Lebanon or Iraq, Syria, you can name it. And it's a totally different world. Again, very different cultural nuances. You don't go and hug a female colleague like you would do in Hong Kong, or you could do in India, or you could do anywhere in the US. It's just not done. So you got to learn that you got to, guys, I mean, you may be best of friends, you just don't do something. You don't touch somebody on their head in the Arab world, not acceptable. So again, you pick up some things, but then you also learn about these individuals, the qualities of resilience that they have, what they go through, you and I have not gone through in our lives at all. The people in Libya and Sudan go through constant wars. What Lebanon is going through today, it's unimaginable. I mean, we have a huge office out there, and the August 4th, the blast which happened was like 2 kilometers away from the office. We're still repairing the office, but about 350,000 homes got damaged in that explosion. And apart from that, that was on top of the fact that post the pandemic, the Lebanon as a country is completely bankrupt. Their currency has devalued 70% in the last 6 months. So Lebanese people who are putting all their life savings in Lebanon have suddenly realized that their net worth is down by 70% in a matter of 6 months. But again, and even from a business perspective, it just impacts the business. The moment there's a war in Libya, your business in Libya goes from 100 to 0. Now, as a CFO of a region, you've got multiple puts and takes. You try and manage the business because you're still on the hook to deliver what your targets are. So yes, Libya is not doing well, but hey, Iraq's doing great. So let's focus on Iraq, or let's talk to our guys in Egypt and see what we can do out there. ultimately we are all accountable. We have to deliver on our numbers. We have to deliver on the targets we have set. And you keep on doing that. But again, long story short, really exciting times. Spent 18, 20 months in that role. And then I thought I had put restructuring behind me, but we got into another restructuring in PepsiCo. And I was part of the team who was doing the restructuring. And I knew I was redesigning the finance organization, and I was designing myself out of a job. I knew that. So literally 6 months before we announced the new organization, I knew I didn't have a job, that my current job was gone. But again, you're managing a big team. You know there are people below you are also going to get impacted. As a leader, your job is not to just look out for yourself, is to look out for the rest of your team. And you still have to do your work. We're still producing, we're still selling. So you still have to manage the job. So you have to manage through the gossip, manage the grapevine, keep on talking to your people, keep on talking to your teams, and make sure we deliver on what we are expected to deliver. And then also try and do your best to make sure you get people the new roles and you try and minimize the damage out of the restructuring. So, it's what gives you comfort, or what gives you a sense of pride, is that through those trying times, through those tough times, how you manage your team, how you manage your people, I think that's the biggest satisfaction you can get. So out of a 20-member team where 20 people had lost their jobs, we managed to find 18 people new roles, and we only let 2 people go. That was the kind of, that's the kind of, and you plan for it, you make it work. You have to really work for your teams. And people know that. People know that you care for them in the way you act, in the way you work for them, and word does get around. So that was I did find a job, and that was 2 years ago. I did get another job. So I got the job, which is my current role, where I did the planning role for the whole of what we call Asia, Middle East, and North Africa. And that's, again, a role I got because I had done my role in Asia Pac. So I understood the Asia Pacific business really well. I have done 2 years in Middle East, North Africa. So I'd done so I knew this geography very well. So when we combined it, there was nobody who knew both markets as well as I did. So that kind of, again, your knowledge, the experiences you got, they come and hold in good stead when you look at for future roles in many ways. So did that role. I'm doing that role right now. And the fact that I am one of the most senior people, both in terms of experience and age. And you hear it's a lot of people coming and talking to you, people who are going through these tough times when they're being relocated or they're being restructured or they're being asked to take new roles. There is a lot of conversation. People are conflicted because people are having to leave their home countries or places they've lived in for 10 years, 15 years and be relocated. It's just because we're not there's no choice. And if they can come and talk to you as a trusted confidant, you're leaving a legacy back in the organization. People trust you. And that is a bigger legacy than anything else. I mean, going from a level 1 job to a level 8 job or a level 7 job is fantastic. You get more responsibility, you get a lot more money, which is all really, really good. But I think what people think of you, how they remember you is more important than anything else. So that's like what I probably wanted to tell you guys. I would probably have a few more points, which I said I did not cover in this, but those are just like quotes or bullet points for you guys today. Look, it's important to build your intellectual horsepower to show that you're intellectually able. That's critical. That's table stakes. I need to know that you have the brain power to be able to do a bigger role. But for your own sake, you'll need to be physically really fit. These jobs are testing. These jobs are high pressure. These jobs involve working long hours for years. If you're not physically fit and you're not top of your game on physically, you are not going to be the best. So the word corporate athlete is not to be taken lightly. I think it means both physically and mentally being top of your game. So to me, very important. And so do what you're doing. If you're playing games right now, you're running right now, you're doing your yoga, don't stop it because you've got to do a job. Find the time. It's more important. It also declutters your mind. It de-stresses you completely. You go running for 5 kilometers, your brain is going to be absolutely refreshed and recharged. I can guarantee you that much. Or whatever and it's whatever you enjoy. I mean, absolutely important. Okay. Second is you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes right through. The issue, the point to note is, have you given it your 100%? Have you taken all the factors that need to be taken for making the decision? And after that, if you get it wrong, so be it. In most organizations, that's the one people want to look at. Have you really put in your best effort? And after that, if it doesn't work in your favor, it's fine. There's a there's a product called WD-40 in the US, okay, which is like, it's like the mother of all lubricants and oils. You use it on anything, any mechanical device, any door which is squeaking, anything you use WD-40. It's magnificent. Now, does anybody know why it is called WD-40? There were 39 failures. It was the 40th iteration which worked, right? So you are going to make mistakes again. So guys, it is, just make sure you're putting in your best effort. Just make sure you have given it your all, that you have left no effort on before you've completed that work, okay? And make sure you don't repeat them. That's the worst thing. If you haven't learned from them, then you have a problem. You have a bigger problem then. Through your organizational career, you're going to need people to guide you. So find a mentor. A mentor is a person slightly more senior in the organization who you can talk to, who's going to guide you, who's not going to be judgmental about you. And it's not, you don't have a reporting relationship to that individual. It really helps. You can use that person as a sounding board for career advice, for issues you're facing. And that person is mature enough to realize that this relationship is a special one between you and that person. And don't use that person to further career growth. Then it becomes a transaction. And then the other person feels that he or she is being used. But that person is your guide, your friend, philosopher guide. Very important. And that's something we don't do. Nobody teaches us these things, but I think it's critical. The other one is have a buddy in the office, a peer, a colleague, a person who sees you at work day in, day out. And each one of us has our blind spots. Each one of us has opportunity areas. I mean, you may just fly off the handle if you have an argument in a meeting. Somebody is disagreeing with you. You immediately lose your temper. You immediately react, and you react in a manner which is hitting the other person's self-esteem. So let's say, now you're trying to correct yourself, but if you go and tell somebody else, Shreya, if you see me, you're in this meeting, if you see me doing this, just let me know at the end of the meeting, did I demonstrate that behavior or not? You immediately know that you can correct yourself. So that's, again, an immediate feedback loop. And again, very important as we grow in our careers. Don't only depend on your manager to give you feedback. Get other people you should be able to engage with other people who are dealing with you at multiple levels, right? Enjoy what you're doing. You have to. You're going to put in 10-hour working days. You're going to be working 300 days a year. You're going to be working for 30 years. If this is not going to be something that you're passionate about, you're in the wrong place. Most of your waking hours are going to be in a job or in whatever you're doing, your business or whatever. You need to be passionate about it, okay? Always be open and approachable. That's what you are looking for when you're a junior most person in the organization. You want to meet the more senior people and you want the doors to be open. If you suddenly, when you go to that level, you suddenly close the door, say, I don't have the time, then you're not furthering other person's career. So again, it's do unto others as you want others to do unto you is very important. Read a lot, guys. I mean, it is important to keep on reading. Your brain, in a miraculous way, retains stuff and connects the dots in the most surprising moments. So it's not reading only the financial news or whatever is your subject matter. It's reading anything. It's reading. The more broad-based you make it, the more you'll connect the dots, actually, in my view. And the more engaging you are as an individual, you don't become a very linear personality, and it helps you develop your brain and develop you as an individual. And always be ready for change. The one thing that is constant is change. We had a BCG guy talking to us the other day at one of our manager meetings, and he was telling us, look, he was talking about the pandemic, right, which is the biggest change that's happened. He said, if you as PepsiCo came to me and told me, look, Eve, I want to start building the capability to working from home and working remotely for this 2,000 people office. He said, I would have charged you at least $10-15 million, and I would have given you an 18-month project plan. Okay. And he said, in reality, what happened in 72 hours, the world was working from its homes. Zoom worked, everything worked. And we didn't drop the ball. Nobody dropped the ball. People are stretched. People are stressed out. You guys are doing your education online. Who would have thought this was something that people would be doing? We never imagined it. So again, you just realize when you're thrown in those moments, the whole system responds. But again, everybody also responds to that. There's a lot of people, we all accepted the fact that, sometimes the Zoom, the line drops. It's not that we're reacting. You have to accept that things will change, okay? The call drops, somebody's not on camera, somebody's dog comes into the picture, somebody's kid comes into the picture, there's screaming kids in the background. That's what you got to accept. Now you can't, but that's because that's the only way you're going to get your work done. But what I'm trying to tell you is change is the only constant. It's going to happen today, tomorrow, every day. And you're going to just be ready for it. And if you don't like what the change is, wait for some time and it's going to change again. And maybe you like the second change. So, but be ready for it. Be equipped. Mentally be flexible. I think those are really important lessons for me. So, and be ruthless about your time, guys. As managers, as organizations, we are fantastic in creating non-value added work. We do a lot of it. We go into meetings, we create reports because I want it in a certain way. I want it in a 17 font and Calibri versus something else, or I want it left to right versus top to bottom. We can do a lot of change. Be ruthless about it. Where you feel there's non-value added activity being done, point it out. Somebody will listen to you. I tell my team, I'd rather you do no work rather than do non-value adding work, because I think that demotivates a person even further. So that was what I had to share for you guys. In closing, it's been a fantastic journey. It's a roller coaster ride. There's been the good, the bad, and the ugly. But on balance, I don't think I would trade it for anything else. I think I've had a blast. I know my kids enjoyed it. They've grown up in multiple parts of the world, and they are now in different parts of the world as well. And I've learned a heck of a lot. And for you guys, I wish you guys really all the best. But most of all, enjoy what you're doing. I think that is, to me, that's the bottom line. So with that, I am done, and I'm happy to take any questions.
After a really knowledgeable and an insightful session, we are sure there are many enthusiastic people who would like to ask you certain questions, sir. So we now open the room for questions. You all can type them and we will get them answered.
This is so typical of even the corporate life. Nobody wants to ask the first question. So then we start pointing out, okay, I'm going to ask somebody a question. I'm going to take that person's name. But no, I won't do that. And leave it for you guys.
Okay, so I would like to ask you certain questions. So what do you think? Is it a requisite to climb the corporate ladder to, have data? Like in today's world, data is valued a lot, and so is data analysis. So is it a requisite in climbing the corporate ladder? What are your views on that?
100%. You need information. You cannot work without the information, Shubhi. It's critical, and the need for more information is only increasing, and it's also available. So yes, you need to be armed with information, data, and the analysis behind the data, which is more important. I can give you a lot of data, but if you don't get the analysis behind it, and you don't know what story the data is telling you, then it's useless. So it's a combination, right? It's the data that you can get, it's the analysis behind it, and then it's what you connect the dots. You need to connect the dots with the multiple pieces of data. And I also think you need to be clear that there's data which is going to come to you from multiple sources. You need to be able to triangulate and connect. So don't just depend on one piece of information and try and take a decision. Data is available, so use as many data points you can to make a decision. It helps your decision be right first time.
Okay, and
Does that answer your question?
yes, like, yeah, is it kind of a requisite in climbing the corporate ladder?
And you'll get it.
So,
You may not have to generate it all yourself. You'll get it. You will have people, there are data analysts all over. I mean, most companies have shared service centers and centers of excellence sitting somewhere in the world. The data is available more than what you can imagine. It's now making sure you have access to it and you actually use it.
okay, so, and what are the attributes and skill set that one needs to develop or have naturally in them in order to be fit for the corporate world? Like, you said it all, but in a summarized way, can you please elaborate on that?
Look, I think, okay, first, I think you need to have the passion, the energy. I think that's number one to me. You obviously need to have the skill set, the knowledge. I mean, that I think is table stakes. It's like I can't get into being a finance guy if I don't have a finance background or a finance knowledge or knowledge of the function, right? You need to be very result oriented. I can run you through a litany of traits that we all look for. You need to be a go-getter, a result oriented person, a person who is going to voice his or her opinions fearlessly, will speak their mind, is an opinion maker, and is always driving for results. High level of integrity. So from a corporate perspective, this is what I think you need. From my individual perspective, I think you need to be also a very humble person. You need to be a very authentic person. And you need to be consistent. I think it's, and that's for me, that's personally, look, I mean, there are many people who behave one way at work and a different way outside the workplace. I find it's just a lot of energy wasted trying to be two different people. I'd rather be one person, and that's what I'm going to be right through. So I keep on telling my team or anybody in my organization, I said, this is a package deal. This is the way I am. You like it or you lump it, but I'm not changing. I can't change my core. I can't change what my core DNA is. The moment I'm being pushed to do that, I'm going to be unnatural. So to me, being authentic means, again, people see you the way you are and they know what you say is what you mean. You have a high level of integrity. You're not going to, there is politics that's going to happen in the organization, but if you can stay away from it, the better. But I think those are the traits you need. You need to be also always delivering excellence. I mean, some of these things you can't survive if you're not delivering excellence.
Okay, so Aditi is asking how you and your co-workers are maintaining your efficiency while working from home.
So, sorry, how are we maintaining our efficiency? Is that the question?
Yes, how you and your co-workers are maintaining your efficiency while working from home.
Look, personally, it's not been so difficult. I think it's been easier than I thought. But what we try and do is, obviously, you do a lot of Zoom calls. We are forever on Zoom calls from morning to evening. What we try and do is obviously have those meetings as a team to know what we're doing and not necessarily kill ourselves by doing an overkill on meetings. So that's what we've tried to stay clear of. So if I'm not required to have a meeting, let's not have it. So one is obviously because the first 2 months, I can tell you, were the most exhausting because everybody thought like, you're there, you're at home. So you can switch on your laptop at 6 o'clock in the morning when you wake up and you never switch it off. And literally a lot of us were doing that. I mean, the moment you came, you switched on your laptop, there were messages pinging because somewhere in the world, someone was working, right? It's 7 o'clock in the morning in Dubai, it's 8:30 in India. I've already started, you get messages from there, or it's 10 o'clock in Bangkok and you start getting messages from there. So we tried to maintain that discipline of not overkilling on meetings and trying to just make sure the meetings are really short and they remain focused on the point. Because earlier it was very easy. I would walk across to my coworker's office or desk and just have the conversation 5 minutes and get away. Now I set up a 30-minute Zoom call. And I suddenly realized I have to fill up 25 minutes of time with nothing, which I don't have anything, but you start chatting and so sometimes you use those to have informal discussions. we try to set up a lot of informal chats with people. We also do we bring the whole group together once in 15 days where we don't discuss work. We play games, we've done whatever it is. We played lotto on laptops, so people share recipes. So we try and we celebrate. We would celebrate people's birthdays in the office. Now we try and get the cakes and flowers to their homes. And then we try and go online and have a celebration. So you have to mix the work with the lighter part of it, also making it where people still feel valued and they still feel that, it's not only work, because that's one of the issues that was initially happening with everybody on Zoom calls. And that there was no personal relationship. The personal part of the relationship was vanishing because it was very work-oriented discussions. So we did a lot of that, and we're still doing a lot of it. I think people have got more used to the concept now, and they're actually, people come, suddenly the 4-year-old kid is also in the person's lap and in the meeting and while we are having a chat, or somebody says, "Excuse me, let me put you on mute because the baby is screaming. I need to give the baby something." You just got to flex and adapt with all of that. But that's what we've all been doing. But a lot of trying to do one-on-one chats, trying to do small discussions with the individuals. In Dubai, we are allowed to move out. So I've taken the liberties. People want to meet me. We go down to Starbucks for a coffee, and we kind of catch up. We catch up. So a group of people try and catch up for a lunch or a coffee. So we try and do that as well. But that's Dubai right now. India, I know it's much more difficult. But that's what in India, our teams have been doing a lot of that, a lot of kind of just making sure we have the fun part also ingrained in the work, along with the work, and a lot of recognition, because it is tough. It is tough trying to manage to work in this environment. So we are doing a lot of recognition to people.
Okay, so how has chartered accountancy helped you in your 33-year journey?
Oh. Well, first of all, it gives you the basic skills of understanding finance. I think that's it. So I look at it as being, it opened the doors for me. But after that, you got to set your own path, because you need to know. So obviously it helps you understanding the function, understanding core accounting, understanding core finance. So you now know, you've got at least a basic skill set, theoretical skill set of how to manage the role. But that's about it. After that, you've got to build it on your own. So it's like the tip of the iceberg. It's only the 10% that you see above water, which is the chartered accountancy. The 90% is below. That's your experiential learning. That's your interacting with people and learning on your job. That's about learning about the business which you're in it, because if you don't understand the potato chips business and the cola business or the CSD business, I could be the best chartered accountant in the world, but I'll be a failure in this company. So you've got to understand the business. You've got to understand the business code. I mean, that's what we call it. Knowing the business code is critical. But you just get your license to operate. It's like you're getting a driving license. You got your license. You know how to drive a car. You're not an expert. That comes as you keep on driving, and more you drive, the more and more you get the experience, and the more and more you become an expert. So it's pretty much something like that.
Okay, so sir, what can one expect out of second quarter earnings of PepsiCo?
We just announced them. So in PepsiCo parlance, it was the third quarter earnings, because PepsiCo is calendar year, not an April or March year. But we just announced our third quarter earnings, and I think we had an absolute stellar quarter. For people who follow the Wall Street, I mean, we grew our EPS, the earnings per share grew 9% in a quarter where most companies were growing 2 to 5%. So absolutely outstanding. And people are seeing in most of the developed markets, we're coming out of the impact of the pandemic, so to speak. Fingers crossed, because the second wave is hitting many markets, but it is going to, we constantly, and that is there. You're never out of it in this. Right now, COVID is going to hit the world and continue hitting the world for who knows how long, until the vaccine is out there and people get the vaccine, and people know that they're safe after that. But till then, we're going to manage through a very volatile environment. It's going to be you've got to be absolutely agile. You've got to be absolutely nimble. You got to take decisions really quickly. You will never have 100% of the information available to you. So you just got to take information. It's what we do. We say it's an 80-20 relationship. You take your decision based on 80% of the data available to you, and then you run. Because if you wait for the balance 20%, you're going to wait forever, and it's never perfect. There's nothing called perfect information, and there's nothing called a perfect decision. You take the best decision based on the available data, and that's it. But to answer the question, PepsiCo's had a fantastic quarter, and most of the markets are coming back. Our markets in what we call the AMESA markets, which is the Asia, Middle East, are taking a little longer because I think countries like India, Egypt, Pakistan, South Africa have been hit the hardest with the pandemic. But fingers crossed. I hope we have a very good fourth quarter, because that's where my bonus and depends on that.
Thank you, sir, for answering our questions. At last, I would like to say, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, and become more, you are a true leader. All these qualities have been reflected by you, sir. We would like to thank you for joining us. You are a true motivation and an inspiration for many finance enthusiasts. We would also like to thank our participants for joining the webinar.
Thank you, guys. Thanks very much.